coaches. I'm Alavita actually means love your lives. And it is just so much fun to do that. How we do that is we work with you where you're at. So every program that we create gets tailored to where you're at. So some people know what they want to do, so we move from there. Some people have no idea what they want to do, so we move from there. Some people need health and wellness. Some need leadership ability. Whatever you need, we can provide. We have lots of coaches who are expert in their area, and we share clients if we need to. So one of my favorite things about working here is that ability to have you move throughout our coaches and get what you need. You spend a lot of time at work. We want you to love it. All right, this is me. And for anyone who has now sat on a webinar with me in the last 9 months, I'm sorry that you have to hear the same tired joke again. That is pre-COVID hair. This is COVID hair. Nobody say anything. We take points off for that. Okay, quick agenda. And I'm going to tell you that I often do switch off from this. So like Jill said, we follow this pattern. Here's our agenda. Here's what we're going to talk about. What is the informational interview? How you actually do the informational interview. Now what success looks like with an informational interview, if you need help, and then Q&A. So now that I have formally told you all that, we can throw that out the window, because I am happy if you interrupt me, put check questions in the chat, and if I don't see them or if Jill doesn't see them, feel free to unmute and say, excuse me, I have a question. I love that. I think in the moment is a better way for you to get your answer, and for you to have it associate with what we're talking about in that moment. So please do not hesitate to do that. Also, would love it for everyone to drop their LinkedIn in the chat. Really important to connect. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Connection is one of the keys to informational interviewing. So this is a perfect place to start connecting with people. These people are all new networking people, so you want to connect. Because I cannot see the chat while I'm speaking to you, I dropped mine in at the very top. Please connect with me, because I don't get to see all of your connections and the chat doesn't save. So please, please, please do that.
Shari, will also include everyone, for anyone asking, I forget to mention this, we will be sending out the recording of this webinar after. I'll send it in a follow-up email, and I will also make sure to include Shari's LinkedIn there so that you can make sure to connect with her that way.
Perfect. And and you know what, Jill, if we could, so guys, this is an area of expertise for me. So in addition to this webinar, I've also written a blog on this. So Jill, if we can include the blog in the follow-up, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So you guys will get that as well. All right, so let me ask you, drop this in the chat or unmute your microphone if you want to answer me. What do you think an informational interview is? And how does when I say informational interview, what are you thinking off the top of your head? Nobody knows. Okay. When do you use an information? Let's go with, when do you use an informational interview? What's it for? Okay, no one's answering me today. What do you guys have? What do you guys have? The Tuesday blues?
Shari, give them time to answer. You're so excited.
I know, I'm so excited today.
No, I raised my hand.
You're raising your, oh, hi, Carrie.
There you go, Carrie.
Hi, I'm looking to raise my hand.
Oh, I can't see you raise your hand.
Oh, sorry, I was looking for like the icon. So in my mind, an informational interview is a conversation with a professional, whether it's in your field of interest or not, to gain insight into what it is that they do, as well as to build your reputation within that person and increase and grow your network through them. I actively interview informationally as much as I can these days, in person or telephonically, with those 3 goals in mind. And then of course, getting a job.
Yeah. Okay, good. So now we're done, everybody. It was really nice to talk to you. No. That is exactly what an informational interview is. And it's the easiest way to learn things is to ask questions about them. And informational interviews work whether you're career transitioning and you're not sure if you're interested in an industry, if you're thinking about going back to school, perhaps, and you're not sure what that all involves. you want to take a leadership track, change jobs within your industry, any of these things where you just don't have the information at your fingertips is where informational interviews come in. Informational interviews are not asking for a job. I wanna be clear about that, because that's something we're going to talk about quite a bit in here. Informational interviewing is all about asking the right people, the right questions at the right time. So again, do you have a job? Is that the right question? And it is not. Asking for a job is not the right question in an informational interview, at least not right away. What it does is it gives you the opportunity to speak informally, and that's the key. It's that informal piece to speak with someone to get information that you want. They give you insight. They're often willing to give you information that you normally wouldn't get just by Googling a company or doing that research online. Or if you were interviewing with them for a job, you get insight that you wouldn't get through that process that you do get through an informational interview. All right, how do we do this? This is the key, is making a list of what you want to know. It's just that easy. You're making a straight list of what do you want to know. And it can be from the sublime to the ridiculous, because it's a matter of what's important to you. So the first step is this brain dump. You're not even worrying about crafting the questions yet. It's just literally a running list. And this is something where coaching comes in handy, because when you work with a coach, we help you craft what you want to know a lot of the times. We are able to parse that information out from you based upon things you're saying in coaching about what your values are and what aligns with you and what you'd like to do and what your ideal day looks like. So a lot of times we'll take that, and that's where you get that general list of stuff. And that's where you craft your questions from. But we're not up to that yet, so let's not jump ahead. But then it's, who do I contact? Who has this information? This is really an important piece. This is why I wanted everyone to drop their LinkedIn into the chat, because you kind of need to know who has the information that you want. And the first thing you do is you start with what your networks are. And your networks aren't just LinkedIn. Your networks are your mother's friend's dog walker's friend who owns a company. It's if you have kids, who's sitting next to you on the soccer field, or nowadays, who's in your Zoom virtual gym class, or any of these things. So that's like your first level networks. Then you go to your expanded networks, which is, who does people know that you know? And for those of you who use LinkedIn on a regular basis, that's where that whole 1, 2, 3 comes in on your LinkedIn. You see that 1, 2, 3. That tells you who knows who, and can you introduce yourself to them? And also Google. Let's not forget about old Google. Put it in, find out, who do you know there? Did you go to school with somebody? Did you go to high school with somebody? Did your neighbor mention that they know somebody? Look at the companies themselves and do that research and see who you know. The world becomes very, very small when you're trying to figure out who you know places. So that's really, really important to start figuring out, who do you want to know? But then it's, how do I get to them? So it's a reach out. This, I know, feels uncomfortable to a lot of people, like, well, I don't know them. What am I supposed to do? And that's why it's important to have started that list of what you want to know, because it will help you go to that first level of reach out. This level is for people in your network. You're going to want to ask for the introduction to the person that you want to know. Key, be very, very clear about what you're asking. You don't need to go all the way around the world. You don't need to send a 4-page document. You don't have to ask how their dog is doing. None of that. People don't like feeling that they're being played. You want to be clear and upfront about what you want. Hi, I don't know if you remember me. We went to college together. I see that you have a connection to John. John works at a company that I just set my application in for. Could you make an introduction for me? 4 lines. Manners count. Today's day and age, manners are becoming more important than ever. Thank you. Could you please? Anything where you can add some decency and human component into your ask is really, really helpful. And it makes a difference to the person to whom you're asking. Because when you're being upfront about it, and then you're also being nice about it. Okay, so I have the right person. Yay! That's a big thing if you have the right person. So now the reach out is round 2. So I'm taking you through this. So you've done the research, you found companies, you found people that you want to speak to, you found out who knows those people. Round 1 was you asked them, okay, can you introduce me? Now you're at reach out round 2, which is someone's made an introduction for you or giving you information. Same rules apply. You want to be very friendly, but you want to be professional. You want to be very clear about your goal in asking. Remember, we are not asking for a job. We are asking for information only. This is a way that you get informally lots of insight and information that you might not be able to get in another situation. But you want to make sure you're clear. If someone's giving you their time, they want to be clear on what it is they're giving you time about. So be very succinct and be very crystal clear in what you want from them. Really, no more than like 3 key questions. And again, manners count. I'm starting to feel like my grandmother here with the manners count. But it's become just very important to have that element when you're dealing with people, especially during the pandemic, because our lives have changed substantially. We're not having that in-person time that we used to have. We're doing lots of things through the screen or lots of things on the phone. And that element of that human decency really brings it back so that it's less mechanical. So that becomes very important. So the question is, where do we do this? Number 1 place to do this, number 1 way to do this is face-to-face. So face-to-face could be a Zoom meeting. It could be a socially distant coffee date. Any time you can get face-to-face with someone or in person as much as possible is the best way, because you can read all of that body language. You could get the nonverbal. You could get your excitement across. You could read all of those nuances that you don't necessarily able to do on the phone or in an email exchange. But also good if someone's willing to share their expertise with you. Next step down would be on the phone, and your last choice would be an email exchange, but still good, still better than no exchange whatsoever. Okay, so now we're up to crafting those questions. So you're going back to that original brainstorm list where you sort of just brain dumped yourself, and you want to pick out 3 of the most important things that you want to know. And again, you want to aim for 3 to 5 key questions. 3 to 5 key questions sort of equals out to about 15 to 30 minutes. So you want to make sure that you're holding to that. People are very kind to give you their time, and you really don't want to take advantage of that. So you really want to stick to that 15 to 30 minute timeline. And you want to aim for those 3 to 5 key questions. Again, here's a place where coaching is unbelievably helpful and beneficial when you're working with a coach. Coaches will work with you to role play some of those questions, help determine which questions are going to give you the most value for your question based upon what you want to know. And generally just help you craft all of this so that you're getting what you need. Key here is stick to open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are things that cannot be answered with a yes or no. For those of you who have kids on the call, you ask your child, how was school? The answer is good. End of discussion. You don't want to do that when you're looking for information from somebody. So you don't want to ask questions that can be answered with a yes or no primarily. Again, back to the example of if you have kids in school, if you say to your children, what was your favorite thing today? They need to give you a little bit more than yes or no. So they have to give you some narration about what was favorite for them. Same thing here. You want to make sure you're asking open-ended questions so that the person who you're speaking with can give you that answer, that expanded answer. I wish I should have put like 75 asterisks on this last bullet point, which is make sure that what you're asking is relevant to the person's position. And this is where your homework comes in. You kind of need to do some research ahead of time when you are Googling the company and looking on their website and getting a sense of what resonates with you. You don't want to waste one of your questions on, so what do you do here? You should know that before you go in. You should know who you're speaking to, why this person was chosen for who you wanted to reach out to. So you want to identify that right person. That really puts people off if they're willing to give you their time and you come in not even knowing what it is that they do. So that's really key for you to be able to know. Okay. I always provide examples, and so will your coach. You really want to know, what should you be asking? Things that are relevant to you in terms of your growth in that next position. And some of this will be determined by what are you looking to do? Are you career transitioning? Are you thinking about going back to school? Is this a brand new industry? These are a couple of questions that I really like when you're informational interviewing, especially what would you change about your job? That's a really insightful question. Very rare do you get the person who'll say, oh, nothing. I love everything about my job. Then that gives you some good insight to what is going on in that company in terms of culture and how people feel when you listen to their answer. Because when you look at a company online, and oftentimes people will check Glassdoor, you have to look at that through a very specific lens, which is what's important to you. Because oftentimes on Glassdoor, you get people who are disgruntled, and sometimes they'll say things that don't matter to you. So that's why, like, this question is, what would you change about your job? You really get some good feedback about what's going on in the company. Obviously, what does your typical day look like? Explain some challenges you face in this position. Also, another question that gives people the opportunity to give you insight that you wouldn't get if you were on a job interview. And again, you want to make sure your questions are really, really relevant to what you want to know, because you have a very short amount of time. Okay, this is how we do it. Before you go in, 4 things you need to do. Research the company. Research the person. No. You cannot know a lot. No more than you need. That gives you what you need to have a conversation, have a dialogue, and go back and forth rather than just checkbox your questions. So you want to be able to have that conversation. Confirm. Again, this goes back to that human decency piece and professionalism. You'd be surprised how many people make an appointment and forget, or don't mark it down, don't show up. That's not professional, and it speaks volumes about your work ethic. And if this is a person who you want to build a rapport with or a relationship with to use further down the line for a job search, they're not going to be real willing to step up for you if you couldn't even manage to make your informational interview. So you always want to make sure you're the one that reaches out and confirm time and place. Practice. I can't tell you how many of my clients laugh at me when I tell them they have to practice for this. Practice for your interview, practice for your informational interview, and practice out loud. Again, this is where a coach would really come in handy when I work with my clients, and we'll do this. We'll go back and forth. We'll record the sessions. I send them to them. Practicing out loud gives your mouth and your voice the feel for the words, the feel for the cadence, What words are you getting stuck on? What doesn't sound genuine to you? And again, that makes a difference when you're talking with somebody. And then lastly, prepare. Make sure you have your stuff. Know where you're going. Know that your technology is working. Know that you have done your research. Did you confirm? Are you saying the person's name correctly? Make all these little details are what makes a very, very big difference when you're meeting with somebody. Now you're in it. You're there, you're face-to-face, you're on the Zoom call, you're sending an email. One, always be respectful and be appreciative of their time and their expertise. Super, super, super important. Restate why you're there. Again, that clarity is helpful. It's almost like setting an agenda for a meeting. Think about meetings that you've been in your life that go in with no agenda. Very difficult to stay on track, very hard to get the information you need. This is the same thing. You want to restate what you're there for so that both parties are clear for what we're here. This is a hard one. If I had a red pen, I'd circle it like 5,000 times and put stars next to it. You asked for their time. Listen to what they have to say. Listen to what they have to say. Actively listen. That means taking out your distractions, giving them focus, and understanding what they're giving you. Ask your questions. Ask your questions. Then ask if you can keep in touch with them. That's very important. Thank you for your time. I'm appreciative of the information you gave me. Is it okay with you if we stay in touch? When you do your thank you, very important to reference something that they said to you. This holds true for thank you notes after regular interviews as well, but especially in informative interviews or informational interviews, if you can show that you were active listening and that you picked up on something, reference back to it. That also gives you the starting point to have another conversation. They mentioned they like baseball. Hey, just saw this article about blah, blah, blah team. Well, then in a month or so, you can reach back out and say, hey, did you see what so-and-so said? It gives you a platform or a commonality to have a different conversation. Okay, after. This is the part that a lot of people just sort of forget about. You, first of all, have to be very appreciative with that thank you note for their time. But then you need to go back and analyze the answers. And this is the hard part. A lot of people are like, yep, got my answers, I'm good. No, you have to go back and look back through. What did you ask? How did they answer? How does that fit in with what you were hoping to hear? Is it what you thought you would hear? Is it vastly different? What impact does that now have on the decisions that you are making? And again, another spot where coaches come in handy to help you sort of parse through this information and analyze out what's working for you, what isn't working for you, what pieces can you dismiss because they're not relevant for you, even though you asked a question, the answer wasn't relevant to what you were looking for. And that also tells you, do you need more informational interviews? And if so, who? Did you get the right person that time? Because maybe from these answers, you learned that, hey, this isn't my right person, but now I know who my right person is. And maybe the new person you just met knows your right person. Now listen, I'm big on bonus. I think bonus doesn't hurt, ever. So go the extra mile. If you are able to meet in person, bring a cookie. Nobody doesn't like a cookie. I'm telling you right now. There isn't anybody who doesn't like a cookie. Like extra special bonus points if you find out what their favorite cookie is and what kind of drink they take and bring that. It's a small investment. It just shows, hey, I was being thoughtful ahead of time. I was pre-planning. This all goes to speaking to your value. If it's an organization where you can or has opportunity for you to volunteer or engage with them, especially if it's really something you're interested in, do so. do so. Give some of your time. See if this is a place where you could give a little bit of time or shadow and engage with what they're doing or help them get their message out. And again, find that shared interest. That shared interest will just take you so far in building a foundation to have further conversation. It's a huge part of the follow-up that you're going to have. Does that, I haven't stopped yet. Does anyone have any questions? Because I cannot see the chat. Jill, do we have any questions before I keep going?
We actually do not have questions yet.
All right, awesome.
A lot of introductions, which is great.
Awesome.
Everyone's connecting with each other, but no questions yet.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Thank you all for connecting. That's hugely important. And I love that you're doing that, because these are the people who you're now going to check their networks to see if they can offer you an informational interview. All right, so always now comes this question. So now, can I ask for the job? I met with them. Can I just see what's going on there? Oh, no, you can't. Not right away. I mean, you might be able to. It's a yes and no. These are some of the questions you want to ask yourself, which is, have you developed a casual relationship? If you have, depending on the relationship, you might be able to ask for the job, or you may be able to ask for an introduction to someone who can give you a job. You certainly can ask for job guidance and support. That's a definite, and that's also very helpful to get you to those next levels. This is my favorite part when this happens. Sometimes you don't have to ask. Your contact will offer information to you. Hey, I heard about a job. I think you'd be a good fit. Hey, I saw this listing. Do you mind if I send your resume in for it? That's when you know your informational interviewing has really, really worked. Working with a client right now. She's wonderful, and she's returning to the workforce. After about 6 years home, she took time to raise children. And one of the first things I said to her is, are you doing informational interviewing? And she said, I don't know what that is. And then we went through all of this and explained what it is and how it can work. And we worked together to develop her list of questions. We did a little backwards. First, we developed the questions, and then we looked at her network, and she's like, I have this person who I worked with for years and years and years at a different company, kind of is in a company that I really would like to work for now. But I can't just call and ask for a job. I said, no, you can't. I said, but you can call and say, hey, I'm thinking of getting back into the workforce. Can we have a conversation? It was a little outside of her comfort zone. I really encouraged her to do that. And she did. And excitedly, because we only worked together for 2 sessions, excitedly emailed me to tell me she now has an interview, an actual interview. She had an informational interview with that guy. And the basic conversation was, hi, good to get back in touch with you. Want to let you know that I'm back in the workforce. Tell me where you've been. How has it gone for you? Where did you end up? Tell me what your path was. That was the basic conversation. 2 days later, he said, send me your resume. I have 2 positions here that I think you would be good for. And now she has an interview. So informational interviewing works, and hand in hand with coaching really is a home run. Okay, so now I do want to ask, but what's the best way? And here's 2 different examples of how you can ask. And this is where some people feel very much outside their comfort zone, but that's why it's important to check your networks and build that relationship with those shared interests. So this is 2 ways you can do it. I'm interested in applying for a role. Do you know anything about it? Is there someone I should connect with? Totally don't forget to ask if there's a referral bonus. A lot of companies have that. Hey, if I bring you in, I get money. Hey, that's one of the reasons I reached out to you. I want to know if your company had a referral bonus. Certainly want you to benefit if you're the one who brings me in. Asking for those introductions, again, appreciating the opportunity. Those are some really, really big pieces of it. And understand, if someone doesn't want to do this, they will say so. A lot of people ask me questions of, I'm not comfortable. I don't know what's going to happen. The worst thing that happens is you don't get an answer. That's the worst thing that happens. The best thing that happens is you make a connection and it leads to a job. So understand, people aren't giving their time if they don't want to. They're not going to say to you, yeah, absolutely, I'm happy to pass that on and then not get back to you. That doesn't happen that way. If they're going and willing to give of their time, they will. And if they're not, they just won't answer you. Remember, manners count. Make sure you all tell my grandma that I said that like 1,000 times to you, because she would be so impressed. It's just so important, again, to make sure that you're using your manners and being appreciative and being thankful, because this goes both ways. Once you've made this connection, now this is your connection, and you don't know when they're coming back to you, or they'll refer people to you as well. You want to feel comfortable to have that two-way street and have that dialogue and that mutual beneficial relationship. All right, if you still need support with figuring how to do this, that's what ALV does. That's what we do. We coach our clients through these pieces of career transition. Not only myself, but like I said, we have a whole staff of coaches. We all have our different layers of expertise. So depending on where you are in your transition or your journey, we can meet you there and help you all the way through. This is my information. This is my email. It's a person behind the email. Jill always says that, and I love when she says that, because so many times you email somebody and you just get a machine that's answering. Shari at alvcoaching.com comes directly to me, and I answer each and every one of my emails, sometimes into the middle of the night. I'm happy to answer questions for you. If you don't want to ask on the call because it takes a little longer for your answer, it's something very specific, reach out to me. Happy to have that conversation with you. You can read about my story at Team Shari. If you go onto the ALV website, you can read all about how I came to coaching. It's not the usual route, so some of you may find that interesting. One thing that we do offer, and today, of course, it's but wait, there's more. You can call in, get a free consult. Jill, can you drop the consult link in the chat? That'd be awesome. Jill's throwing in the chat right now a link that if you click through, you can get a free consultation with one of our relationship specialists, not our coaches, our relationship specialists. Their whole job is to have a 30-minute conversation with you to get a sense of where you're at and what you need, how you like to work best, and then they'll actually match you with a coach. So may or may not be necessarily me. It could be one of our other really talented coaches for the area that you're looking for. And then you could also then have a complimentary consult with your coach, 20 to 30 minutes to start doing a little coaching, see if you mesh, talk about your pain points, have some questions answered. And if you choose to become a member of ALV, if you use first session free, you get your first session on us. Because we know that once you start coaching with us, you'll stay with us. Our clients just are very, very pleased with the results that they get from the work that they do with us. All right, question time. Anybody have any questions that they want to share or ask, or any experiences they want to share? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can actually see the chat and see all of you as well. Hi, oh, there you all are, yay.
We do have a question from the chat.
Awesome.
What are some helpful resources to find out what someone does, since titles, responsibilities can vary from org to org? That's a great question.
That is a wonderful question. And anyone who's ever talked with me about this knows I always saying that the titles are just so hard to understand. Best way is through LinkedIn. And the reason why is you can go onto LinkedIn and go on to, they list all their employees, and you can see what their titles are, but also if you look on their page, they should have, their experience, give you a couple of bullet points. You can get some sense of what they do and how they feel what their task list looks like, because titles are difficult, but task lists or impact statements are usually, you can get a good sense of what they're doing from there. That's one way. Second way is actually go straight on the website. If they have staff bios, oftentimes you can get a sense of how they fit into the organization as well. Those would be the two main ways. And then thirdly, Google. I mean, there's just so much public information. If there's a news story about that person, they'll usually give you a little background about what they do. First step would always be LinkedIn, second step website, third step Google. So I don't know if I answered that really good enough for whoever asked that, but please. And if I didn't, like I said, sign up for a consult because we can answer that. All right, I think, did I see something flashing on my screen?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay.
Sorry, the internet is not very good here. I am glitching a little bit, but we have another question. I guess you're reading the chat now. But would you recommend reaching out to people on LinkedIn or email when looking to connect with someone for an informational interview?
Okay, so that's like a threefold question. So let me answer it, and then if I don't answer, whoever asked that, chime in and let me know. Okay, so if you're reaching out for your first level reach out, like to somebody who knows somebody and you want them to make an introduction, however you typically have a conversation with them is the best place to do it. So if it's an acquaintance or an associate that you typically email with, do it through email. If you text, do it through text. If you typically have a conversation through DM in LinkedIn, then do it that way. So for that first level reach out or face-to-face or on the phone, whatever your typical level of connection is there, use that first. After that, and you're asking for an introduction, then you're going to use whatever mechanism that person used. If that person introduces you through DM on LinkedIn, use that. If that person introduces you by email, use that. If that person introduces you with a phone number, feel free to use that. So that's if you're going in with a warm introduction. If it's a cold introduction, either one will work for you. It's whatever's most comfortable. I typically will use LinkedIn as a first shot. And then if I do know their email, I will go second level to that if it's cold. Otherwise, I always use what was given. I hope did that answer whoever asked that question? Good, I see. Oh, Fred, good, I'm glad, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna look through this now because I see Jill is struggling with that internet. Okay, so let me see here. Could you share some tips or advice on how to analyze an informational interview session? For example, would you jot down a summary shortly after to remember the points? Put the answers into a 1 through 5 numeric set. Any guidance? Okay. So this question is asking afterwards I said, make sure you analyze your information, asking about how do you analyze that information? Any way that works for you. One of the things that I always do on an informational interview is take notes. And I will always ask the person who I'm meeting with, do you mind if I take some notes? Usually they're like, oh my God, absolutely take notes. Some people will even let you record them, but I always take notes. Then what I do right afterwards is I go back to my original list of questions of what did I want to know? And I look at my answers and see, did I find out what I wanted to know? If I didn't, I try to figure out why. Why didn't I find out what I needed to know? Is this the right person? Did I not ask the right questions? Or did the answers just not jive with what I was hoping? I tend to be more qualitative, so I do it that way. If you're a quantitative person, feel free to set it up like a Likert scale. Give it numbers and figure it out that way. Whatever system feels comfortable for you, no one's going to check it, and you just need it for yourself to find information. Some people are heavy duty Excel people, and they just put it all into a spreadsheet. And if they can't put into spreadsheets, it's not going to be comfortable for them. Some people like lists. Some people put numbers. It's whatever's really going to work for how you're going to be able to digest that information so that it's helpful for you. Like I said, I tend to be qualitative, so I like to go back and forth with the actual narrative for me. Okay, thank you. Some tips. This is another question. What are some tips for those who are very introverted? Oh, Julie, networking does not come easy for me and gives me anxiety. So you, Julie, are so like a key person for LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great for introverts because you are behind the screen. So it's a great place to start your networking journey, and asking for informational interviews and doing them via email rather than face-to-face, because you can do a lot of your research without having to reach out yet. So by the time you're reaching out, you should have a strong level of comfort to know that you're reaching to the right person, you're asking the right questions, and you can do all of that before you have to talk to somebody. This is an area where for sure a coach would be able to support you tremendously through these steps. I have a couple of clients now who have major anxiety and are working through how to use LinkedIn, how to start engagement, starting to build themselves as a thought leader in their space, so that it becomes more comfortable and less scary to do that reach out, because at least they're comfortable within their space. So LinkedIn is your best friend, Julie. A huge part of networking. Has opened up very many doors for those who struggle with networking. So I would spend some time on LinkedIn, make sure you find your people, engage with them, follow them, see who you know, and you know what, start slowly. It's only one step at a time. You don't need to have an informational interview with 75,000 people to get your information. One step at a time. Find one person who you feel comfortable with, you like their vibe on LinkedIn, and you can have a conversation with. Start with one. That's always your best place. You don't have to do a bazillion. One works. One works. And don't forget, you're very welcome. Don't forget that you use your free consultation to get some of these questions answered specifically. It's a really great way to see if coaching is something that would work for you and take you through to whatever your next level is, because we're just talking about informational interviewing here. But coaches at Alma La Vida can cover, career is my area of specialty, as is leadership, but we have coaches that handle leadership, owning your own business, health and wellness, stress management, career burnout, confidence, interviewing, just life transitions. So really there's people who can support you through all of your pieces. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Brittany and Lori, who are relationship strategists, are awesome at this. Awesome. They really know how to talk with you and get what you need and match you with the right person. So I can't tell you enough that you should really take advantage of that. One other thing that I really always like about informational interviewing that I find very, very helpful is that ability to build that long-term relationship with somebody, because you don't know over time where that's going to bring you. So building a professional relationship, and this person doesn't have to become your best friend, but a professional relationship that's long-term is helpful, provides a sounding board, and not just for you to them. Oftentimes it'll be reciprocal, where you can bounce ideas off each other or network together and find out who knows who. And that way it isn't as scary because you're doing it with somebody. And over years, sometimes those professional people become friends, and sometimes friends become professional networking people for you also. But just to continually build that foundation, you never know where people end up over time. That's actually how I got into coaching, was people saying, "Oh, you really helped my friend. Could you help me? Oh, you really helped this one. I think I know someone who you should talk to." So it's that piece, that connection piece is super, super important. All right.
Hey, Shari, we have, I can't remember, but it is Paige has her hand raised.
Oh,
Paige, did you get your question answered, or do you want to speak it
I just
or
had
talk
a
to
quick
it?
question. Yeah, if you don't mind.
no, of course we don't. We're happy.
Um,
Your hand raised. Hi, Paige.
Hi, thanks for doing this. My question is, I like to thank my interviewers, and I end the interview by saying, "Hey, is there anything I can do to help you guys out? You know, whatnot." And they're very gracious, and they say, "Oh, thanks for asking, but we're fine." Is there another way to go around that and ask to be of help?
Yes, that's where your research comes in, Paige. So I'm going to use a really super easy example. If you're interviewing with a not-for-profit, and I'm using this because it couldn't be any cleaner, not-for-profits like volunteers. They like people who can help them because they're not-for-profit, which means they don't make money. And they like to have volunteers come to them or get their message spread. So an easy way around that is before you go in, find out, is there an event? Is there a volunteer opportunity? Is there a message that they're eminent that they need to get out? And say to them, hey, before I leave, do you have a sign up? I'd love to take a slot at putting together bags of food for homeless people before Thanksgiving, or, you know, do you have any flyers? Because I'm going to go back to my office. I'd love to hand them out for people. So anything that you can offer. Now that's a really clean example because it's a not-for-profit, but corporations and other organizations have social responsibility departments and other things that you can easily be. But so if you go in prepared with an ask, it's not as open-ended, so they can choose things for you.
So kind of like what Ashley is asking in the chat. Most of my interviews are with for-profit companies.
Mhm.
So can you offer to do something for them for work that's non-paid?
Of course. So a couple of different ways there. Again, always start with the research. Find out what they're doing, what their challenge is right now. And of course, there's so many different kinds of for-profit companies, but let's say it's one that has an actual product, not an abstract service, but a product. Are they launching? Do they do a day of service? Could you help out? Are they doing something in office where you could shadow for a few hours and just be an extra set of hands somewhere? So anytime you could offer some kind of help, that is always welcomed. And the answer sometimes is no, very often because of insurance purposes, because you don't work there. But knowing what they're doing, either in the community or with their product or with their service, and finding a way to help boost it or support it is where that help comes in. If it's a corporation that actually does a decent amount of community initiative, it's even easier, but they don't all do that. But even if you could take sampling, or if you're in their lobby and you see they have some business cards, hey, do you mind if I take some of these cards and bring them back to my space and hand them to some, I know a few people who would be interested in this. Any little thing like that just takes you that little extra mile.
I like that. Thank you. I appreciate this.
You're very welcome. Happy to answer the questions. I didn't even see your little hand raise there, which I love, that little hand raise thing. Ashley, does that answer it for you too? Or do you need more?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I'm going to add on to that. It was a little bit of a vague answer because industries are very specific. So again, this is where your research comes in. Find out what's working in that specific industry. Some companies with products want to hand out samples, offer to take some. Some companies that are doing services, you take business cards. So you kind of want to find out what their vertical is and what their silo is, so you know what you can offer. That's why it's not a sort of one size fits all answer. How are we on time, Jill? Because I can't see the time, and I feel like I'm going. I know I can. So
You're crushing it, Shari. I never want to interrupt your flow. We have 4 minutes left. So
yay.
Yeah, so everyone, your questions are fantastic. These are all really great ones. But if anyone else has any other questions, this is your chance.
This is your time. I'm celebrating.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say I'm sharing a little personal celebration with you. I'm running on time. So for
You
me,
are.
I'm going to take I'm taking a personal little celebration tour for that because I don't know.
Yay.
Oh, people raise their hands. I see it. It's coming up on my screen. This is so much fun. I never saw that before. And I actually teach at the college level and I never saw that before. Very cool. All right.
All right.
Awesome. Carrie.
Carrie.
So I just want to contribute to the group that when I conduct an informational interview and I'm the interviewer, I often ask the person towards the end of the conversation if there are any of their contacts that they would recommend that I speak to, because not only
Oh my God, great.
boost of you're valuing their opinion, but it gives you more people to reach out to and say, oh, so-and-so suggested that I reach out to you about blah, blah, blah. And it's worked.
Oh God, my God. Yes. 100%. Yeah, perfect. That's part of that networking, and you're just building and building and building and building. So key. Thank you for adding that. It's amazing. All right, we're good. I love that little hand raise. I gotta tell me, I don't know why I never used that before. Where do you guys find that little raise hand guy?
Chat.
And participants.
Oh, fun. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. I learned something new. I love when we learn. Everyone gets to learn. All right,
Shari,
everybody making their plan for somebody they want to reach out to, please tell me that you all are. In the chat, drop a yes, please. That everyone's thinking of someone they can reach out to right now for an informational interview.
Yes.
Yay, that's what I want to see. Woo!
If I could, just to share something else.
Please.
Recently, I attended a session and I thought, oh, it's not going to pertain to me. And it turned out that there was somebody there that I needed to talk to, and he was super gracious. And I was so surprised because it was a government, recruiter. And
Right.
it's so hard to get a hold of them. And especially finding somebody who's willing to share. And
Right.
so you just never know when you're going to bump into someone, and it worked out in my favor. So I just wanted to share that with the group.
Oh, I love that you share that. Thank you. And that's why when I talk about this, why I say, when you look at your networks, really consider everybody. If let's say you're into bike riding and you're in a bike riding group, don't forget to tell the bike riding people that what you're looking for, because just because they're bike riding doesn't mean they don't have another part of their life that may be, it resonate with you or applicable to what you're looking for. And then it's somebody who's like-minded. So that's, you're always going to forget those expanded networks. You never know.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
Awesome. All right. Any
Thank
other?
you all.
I think we're good.
We're good?
And
all right.
yeah. And also, if anyone else has any other additional questions, I know it's a lot of content in these webinars. So if anything comes up for you after you've had time to process and give yourself space, please reply. I'll be sending a follow-up email with the recording and some of the other things that Shari touched on. And like she said, we're humans behind the email. So please respond back or reply back if you have any additional questions to Shari. She is on that email as well. I'll include the free consult link. I'll include that blog post and just some other additional resources for everyone as well.
I stole that line from you, Jill. I did give you credit though. I did.
I heard it. I appreciate you. All right.
Thank
awesome.
you everybody for being here.
Thanks,
Please reach out.
Yeah.
Happy to hear from you.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one,
Have
everyone.
a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.